Out now for the first time is the Beyond the Vibe merch, shirts, stickers, mugs, and many other things available. Support the vibe and join the vibe. The link is in the description below. This Saturday on Beyond the Vibe, we're having our first ever Ones to Watch episode. This time we're taking a look at the most promising new classic and retro rock bands out there. First up are Keylock.
Alright, so if you're looking for a light, you can have mine. I wanna see your love light shine.
Blue Nation.
Oh, yeah.
And the Karma Effect.
I'm gonna steal your heart tonight. Something we can and can't do. Can we cuss? Are we allowed to swear?
Yeah, you can swear. There's no rules, pretty much.
Just
kind of
every now and again, you got to be careful of it, haven't you? Like,
well, there are some that if you're connected to like a radio show, so like if you're going out on radio, you probably can't say no.
I did a BBC live on the air for an hour on a BBC thing, and I had to really think about what I was saying.
Reached the point where you're aware of it, so you just have this feeling where it's like, I kind of want to.
Yeah, literally every time we went to a break, I'd be like, fuck!
I'm here with Aaron and Johnny of Keylock. Thank you very much for taking the time to chat with me.
Thank you for having me, man.
No, it's cool, man. So on this show, we like to kind of have a look at how a musician kind of came to be a musician. So how did things all kind of start for the both of you, like making you kind of want to play music?
Aaron, you want to go?
I don't really know. I think it's, I think it's the same as anything in life anyone can really relate to. It's like finding a career mostly kind of finds you. I mean, I was introduced to music as a kid through my parents and stuff. Something I always really enjoyed and wanted to do. I just started off playing guitar, and I think, as soon as you kind of get into it slightly, you either like fall for it and you catch the bug and you can't get out of it and you kind of throw your whole life into it, or you don't. So I think that's kind of really the intro for me, I guess, just being brought up on music that connected with me. Simple as that, I guess.
Oh, that's cool, man. I think that there are some people, they'll come from like a musical background, or, there's either just music in the house that kind of makes you want to go to that next level. That's kind of what I found with other artists. And for yourself, Johnny?
I suppose in a similar way, really, my folks, the first time I really remember kind of music meaning something to me was we were on holiday in Somerset when I was a kid, and my dad went to a car boot sale, and he brought a cassette of the Sweet's greatest hits. And like, do you remember these? Like, for my mum, really, and put it on in the car, and I was just like, whoa, what is this? You know what I mean? What is this? Is not what I'm used to hearing coming out the radio. And from there, quite astutely, my dad saw that I was into the Sweet, so bought me a Queen CD, because he was like, I think that's like the natural progression,
Yeah.
And then in 2005, Paul Rodgers toured with Queen, and my world changed forever. I just couldn't believe this, leather trouser clad man was singing these songs the way he was. I just thought it was the greatest thing in the world, man. I was like, well, I don't know what that is, but I need it. I want it. Long story short, I went and bought a load of, like, the next day with my pocket money. I went to HMV and bought I think it's like Bad Company's first record, Best of Free or Fire and Water or something like that, and then the wild card, because it was like 3 for a $5 or something back in the day, was Paul Rodgers' Muddy Water Blues. It took me a while to get to the Muddy Water Blues thing, after I'd kind of gone through Free and Bad Company, standing in my room trying to sing along at like 13 years old, trying to sound like Paul Rodgers. And then when I got to the the Muddy Water Blues thing, I was like, oh, what is all this juju? What's this? All this voodoo going on in this music? And then I went and found Muddy and Howlin' Wolf and all those guys, and then kind of came back through like the Stones and the Faces and all that. It's kind of been like just like an ebb and flow of me going from rock and roll guys who are influenced by blues guys who then influence other rock and roll guys, and backwards and forwards. So yeah, it's kind of my journey really. And then I met Aaron Keylock and thought, oh, probably give all it up now.
I mean, you kind of briefly touched on it there, you know, going to see Queen with Paul Rodgers. Did you find, I mean, for the both of you, did you have that kind of first gig that you went to that really kind of makes you think like, I want to be up there rather than be stood here?
Oh, I can wholeheartedly attest that when I was at the back of the MEN Arena in May 2005, I was just like, I said to me dad, when I grow up, I'm going to be that guy. And my dad kind of...
yeah, that's a high benchmark.
Which one? Roger Taylor. No, so yeah, I don't know what it was, but it was I think it was the closest thing really I've felt to religion. You know what I mean? Like that kind. You know, when religious people talk about like hearing God say, "I chose you to take this forward," and all this malarkey. That was the closest I've got to that. You know, that kind of calling of like, this is whatever this is. I need a slice of it.
I think it's weird as well because like how Johnny said he kind of went through the rock and roll, then the blues guys, and back to rock and roll. For me, I kind of like wanted to play guitar because of Keith Richards and all of that. Then when I started playing, I kind of left all that behind, threw myself into like B.B. King pretty much. I'll stop there. And then I went and saw the Black Crowes at Brixton Academy, and I was like, that to me at that point was just like, that's literally just that with loud guitars and no rules. I think it wasn't until I started playing that you kind of see the relations between, you know, how music's moved on from blues into rock and roll and everything else. So I think that for me was like, I can do that. Whilst for B.B. King, it's like, I can't do that.
It is a hard place to start. So we kind of briefly touched on it a bit back there when you were saying that you two met. Like, how did the band come together?
Well, me and Aaron.
Have I wandered into some strange territory?
No, it's. I'm trying to condense this so it's not boring.
It's cool.
Me and Aaron met. I had gone to see The Answer play. Yeah. I was, and still am, a fan of The Answer. And I'd gone to see them play, and I'd seen that Aaron was on the bill, and I'd kind of, you know, you see his name and stuff like that, and I'll go check this guy out. And then after the gig, I was still drinking at this point. I do not drink anymore for the benefit of myself and those around me. I marched straight up to young Mr. Keylock there and said, "Who are your favourite singers in?" And Aaron said,
Muddy Waters, Otis Redding, and Paul Rodgers.
And I was like, oh dear, me and this guy are going to get on real well. I think I sang the first couple of lines of 40 Days by Muddy Waters at you. Sorry about that. And at that point, he should have gone, this guy's crackers. I want nothing to do with this fella. And then a few years down the line, you sent me a message.
Yeah.
Asking if I knew any singers, and I was like, yeah, me. And then we got together and started having a bit of a jam, didn't we, and writing tunes.
It's kind of cool because it starts like organic, and I know it's like what everybody says, but like literally just jamming the blues and kicking song ideas around without like, there was no band behind us. We weren't like, we need to find a drummer and a bass player and get in a room. It was just kind of like that kind of innocent, organic thing of just jamming and playing music. So it's nice when it kind of develops from that, you know.
I think what was nice for me is I think me and you were both in that kind of where we were at the time, we were both kind of done with that a little bit and felt a little bit caged or a little bit don't really know what to do next, I think we kind of poured that into each other a little bit.
Yeah.
And just kind of went, well, I'm going to trust this guy and see what happens. And we just started writing songs, didn't we? And then, all of a sudden there's kind of 10 ideas there and you go, oh,
yeah,
probably best putting a band together now. See what happens. Yeah.
I think that's the best way to be, isn't it? It's that kind of natural progression. Did you kind of set out, like, obviously you've got this very apparent kind of retro, kind of classic rock style. Did you, from day one, did you think like this is the road that we want to go down?
No.
I don't think we ever talked about it, did we? I think we just kind of...
The funny thing with songwriting, when people kind of, I think it's like, yeah, you kind of know who you are and your image and your branding and stuff. But like when you sit down and write a song and it gets back to the basics of it, I think the reason it is kind of, your influences kind of come out and you're not thinking about, I need a song that sounds like this today, or I need a chorus like this, or I need like that. You're literally just, otherwise you'll never be able to write. You're just saying what comes out, you know what I mean? And putting your signature on it, your piece. And if anyone knew how to write a hit or anybody knew how to write a certain way, then everyone would be able to write a hit. So it's, everybody, it's just you being that kind of naked and open. And yeah.
But I think especially in that first time, because I think we'd got together in Liverpool and had a jam.
Right.
We just jammed the blues, hadn't we? And kind of like blues standards just to see if we kind of had a bit of a rapport. And then we were like, why don't we just go and see if we can kick some songs around and see what we can do? And the first 2 or 3 tunes, 3, 4, 5 songs we wrote were kind of, oh, I've got this kind of idea. And you're like, oh, hang on, well, I've got like a pre-chorus and a melody thing for that. And then it was like, oh, I've got lyrics that would fit that. And then we kind of just started finishing each other's ideas to the kind of, like when you read about the Beatles, not that I am comparing them to the Beatles, but like you'd see like at the end of the session, like no one knew who'd really written what, you know what I mean? And then you kind of go, is this yours? Like, and we still do that, don't we? Sometimes like you'll send me something and I'll be like, that's good, where'd you get that? And you're like, well, you sent that to me 6 months ago. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool, man. Of course, with yourself, Aaron, I was kind of made aware of you like right back in like 2017, I think, with your debut solo record, Cut Against the Grain. I think you were like 18.
9 years old.
I think he was like 18 at the time. I've seen videos where like you were like literally a child on stage.
Yeah, I was 18, but I've been doing it for like a decade.
Yeah, like it's a strange thing seeing that. Like I'm looking back at these videos and I was like, what was I doing at that age?
What was I doing?
Has there been anything that you've taken from that experience and looked to apply to kind of what you're going to do now with this new kind of band and new project?
Not particularly. I think, that's the kind of thing with like all of us. I mean, we've all been, throughout bands and stuff. I think there is kind of like a thing of getting it right, doing things for the music, putting the music first, not letting other things get in the way this time. I think we've all kind of learned that along our journey. But other than that, I think you kind of have to have that kind of naivety in the music. I think if rock and roll isn't kind of arrogant, uncompromising, naive, then it's kind of, do you know what I mean? It's kind of not really rock and roll. So I think music wise, no, not really. It's just doing what you're doing. You're being arrogant enough to believe in what you've put down on paper and take it to the world and believe enough in it. But I think as in terms of a band, just getting it right and putting music first, really.
Are you happy to kind of take a step back and focus on guitar now with having a lead vocalist in front of you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's funny, again, like I say, like how like things find you in careers and stuff. It's like I only started singing because the guy at the open mic, the blues jammer on the open mic night who sang called the tune. So I was like, I don't want to play somebody else's fucking song. I'll play my own. And it just kind of develops from that, really. And then when it came to the end of it, it's like when you want to do something new and you're broken down, you want a fresh start. It's like Do you know what I mean? Like concentrate on your strengths. Like I say, all my favorite bands were like Free and the Black Crowes and everything. That's kind of the route I wanted to go down with a bigger band. Be able to do things that you can't do in a 3-piece. Especially when you connect with a singer like Johnny. Do you know what I mean? You have that connection where you can kind of know what he's going to say, and I can write for him and he can write for me, and it's kind of like a conversation. Do you know what I mean? Rather than me talking to myself. We're kind of talking back and forth. So yeah, it's nice.
I imagine it's refreshing to have that kind of more collaborative thing than, you know, I mean, I've spoke with other solo artists in the past, and you can't help but feel that there's perhaps a tremendous amount of pressure because it all goes back to that person at the end of the day. Like all ideas, they circle back to them.
Yeah, I mean, especially as well in like, you know, you kind of got like, I mean, if you're not booking shows and you're not doing this, you've also got to think of like your session players' wages that year, and you know their problems come onto you, and then the guitar tech's problems come onto you, and then you're kind of set down in board meetings with one person you hear, and then like a board of people shouting at you versus, you know, 5 against 5. So yeah, it's just kind of like the brotherhood and the everything, you know, that you kind of get into music for, really. Yeah, I don't
know. I think that's, you know, the way it should be. The kind of most recent single that, you know, that I came across online, and I'm sure many other people did, was "Shine on Me." I really think that kind of that gives a glimpse into kind of what you guys are about. Like, kind of sums you up, I think. Could you talk a bit about the song and kind of maybe how it came about and the meaning behind it?
So I've been walking around for a while singing like that refrain thing, that "let it shine, 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 shine on me." And I think I rang you up and said, "What is this, man?" Have we been driving somewhere, and if it's like, is it like a Black Crowes song that I've heard? And he goes, "That's yours, that." And I was like, "Is it? Right, I better start writing then." And then I think you pitched the pre-chorus thing to me, "If you're looking for a light," and then we started putting chords around it. And then so I'd seen this interview with I'd seen a Free documentary, and they're talking about that. Their big standard before All Right Now was The Hunter by Albert King. It was their cover of that, and saying that like that was kind of like the beginning of the journey, and then All Right Now was like the kind of like There She Stood in the Street, like the second bit. And so I'm thinking, well, what, like that's the kind of thing I'm going for. And I'd already kind of started putting lyrics together. And I'd seen this thing that the Black Crowes said, where they said, "We just want to be part of the song. We're not trying to revolutionize anything. We just want to be part of it." That, like, all that thing since, you know, field hollers coming down into Delta blues and Mississippi, and then going to Chicago, and then it becoming Motown, and that becoming rock and roll, and that journey. So I feel like I want to write something that is that kind of way minded, if you know what I mean. Now, I don't think you can actually sit down and genuinely do that. Listen, let's go and write this song that is like this. But I think we did all right. Like, I wanted to get that kind of gospel-y sing-along thing, which I think we did. And I think it kind of sounds like The Faces on an off day.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, it kind of... Yeah, but didn't it come out in like 2020? Sometime around
like a week before lockdown.
Yeah, exactly.
Lockdown.
And
yeah,
I think.
Sorry, man. Yeah.
No, it's, I think that it's kind of the perfect time to release a song like that, because it's, you know, it's very feel good, isn't it? You know, and I imagine, you know, there was people that kind of connected with that kind of feeling, you know, that need that kind of feel good energy, you know.
Hopefully, yeah. I mean, I like the idea that all the music does that. You know what I mean? Even some of the stuff, because we are going into the studio soon, and it's not all going to be upbeat, happy tunes, you know. But I like to think that even the songs that are kind of a bit of a mood or a bit more soulful still serve that purpose. Do you know what I mean? Like, when I'm feeling down, I'll go and listen to a bunch of tunes that I connect with in that mood, and it kind of makes me feel better.
Yeah.
You know, music has to be that. You know, it has to be this kind of like a medicine. You know.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Is that too hippie?
No, it's. I think the best music makes you feel something, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Or like like I find with my experience, there are certain tracks that I kind of connect to certain experiences, like certain songs. And you know, like whether that's spending time with family or something, it's all very human.
Yeah.
And I think that's the mark of a great song. If that's the thing that sticks in your head, you kind of connect it to that experience.
It's the soundtrack of your life, isn't it? You're the main character of your movie, and it's the soundtrack of that movie, isn't it? And like for ages, man, I had the Sweets cover of New York Groove stuck in my brain to the point where I annoyed everybody around me. But it always reminds me of the Shine On Me. The only show we got to kind of launch Shine On Me with was the Planet Rock Winter's End, and the Sweet were headlining, which was great for me because the first
That's
band
a nice full circle
with the Sweet, and I got to speak to Andy and say, you know, thanks very much. But we were all on the balcony with Cormac Neeson's band when the Sweet were playing, and everyone was just having the best time. You know, it was just such a good, like, everyone's dancing and having a drink and all the rest of it, and it was it always takes me back to that. So yeah, man, I thoroughly agree.
I mean, you briefly kind of touched on it there. Do you have kind of any plans moving into perhaps the new year? Maybe the album kind of tentative plans there?
Yes. We signed with Golden Robot Records, the biggest independents on the planet and therefore the biggest in the universe. And yeah, we're going in soon to start recording. We don't know any release dates yet, but we are going in soon. We can't wait because it's been a hell of a year.
I felt it there when I asked the question.
Yeah.
Do you kind of have like, what's the kind of process? Do you, like, there are some bands where they'll go in and they'll have written nothing, or there is, you know, and just start from doing stuff in the studio. There are some that will go in with, you know, a kind of an idea maybe of certain tracks. Do you have that kind of?
If we had the money, I'd love to do that. But no, I think because we've been together so long, we've been, you know, we're one of those bands that keeps writing. We can't just sit down and play like the same thing over and over. We're always moving and always writing. We've always got ideas. I think that's the thing. If you inspire people, you're always going to keep, you know, vibing off each other. So we had like, between 15 to 20 songs to pick from for this.
Yeah, so I think we had 20 and then we kind of went, oh, you know what, I want to take that one back to the drawing board. So I think we sent 17, 16.
Something like that, yeah.
Demos. And then the label, between ourselves and the label, we kind of said, right, we think these are the best, and we kind of whittled down to a track list, and going to do some pre-production this weekend. And then, go in and record as live as we possibly can.
So you're going to go kind of like those bands that have influenced you, maybe try and go a bit old school with the recording?
Yeah, I think for us, man, it's just not natural for a band like us, I don't think anyway, it should be warts and all, you know, like it should be the best take, not the most perfect take, because if you're looking for perfection in art, then it's by its very nature it's imperfect.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like it should be about how good it feels at the time. Like if everyone stands back from, you know, when the song's finished and goes, oh, it's the one, you know, then that's the one, you know what I mean? And like it being perfectly to a grid on a click track, or it's perfectly in tune, or it's, it's got to feel.
Yeah.
I've had this conversation. Sorry, I've had this conversation with a few different artists, and they've said the same thing. I mean, we've all agreed where it's kind of the perfection is the imperfection.
Yeah.
Like if it's so like perfect, it kind of becomes robotic at that point. Like it loses that character.
Yeah. Like listen to something like Had Me a Real Good Time by The Faces, and it's all over the place, man. But it's one of the best songs that's ever been put to tape. Like when Rod comes in with "Well, I was looking good," I could kick the door off hinges, you know, like I could literally boot a wall down when he comes in with that. And I don't think if it had been like, have you seen the guy on YouTube who like puts like Zeppelin and the Stones to a click track? Awful. Terrible.
But like, I think as well, it's kind of what's not good being like, oh, we have to do everything retro, but I think like the thing that's missing, especially production, is like focusing on capturing takes and like performances of the band that like, where it's got something special in it. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, you listen to a lot of the Who stuff where it's like, that was not the best performance, but the capture that they got, like the scream Roger Daltrey did in it, they were like, there's no need to do any more. Even if the line before it was slightly flat, that had something special in it. Do you know what I mean? That people will take. It's just not like a generic overthought performance. And I think that's kind of missed out of production these days as well. It's just, you know, it's capturing something that's exciting in the performance.
Yeah, and I think as well that with all the tools and kind of the click of a button, you've got an entire orchestra behind you. It's not for me, that, you know, like if you want an orchestra, go and get one. Like I just, it's
like, yeah, plugins of like, this sounds like a Fender Tweed, so I'll bring a Fender Tweed then. Do you know what I mean? Exactly, you know.
And it's just, to us, it's just unnatural to have those bells and whistles. Do you know what I mean? We've got a good band. We've got a killer organ player. We've got, like, you know, a drummer who's like outrageous. We've got a groovy bass player. It's a pity about me and him, but but you know what I mean? Like, it's a good out. Like, I don't know why you'd want to mess around with that by taking the magic out of it. Like, we don't go on stage and have any like, oh, can we just do that one again? Or do you mind if we just
yeah do you mind if I just start this song again?
yeah I was a little bit coming in on that second line, you know.
There's a thing like when Mick Jagger says you know, when you go in to make a record, it's kind of getting the song out how you heard it in your head when you wrote it and presenting that to the people. And then when you're going on stage, it's about taking that song and try and make a performance that brings people in and creates a party where everyone's coming together through the song. And it's I think that is kind of the two different mindsets. For us going in, really, is kind of like, we've got this chance now to be able to take the song and play it as a band, how we heard it as a band, and capturing that magic that's in the rehearsal room and just getting it on record and showing the world everything that we've made in a room, rather than trying to just make it as big and as this as possible. You know what I mean? It's just as simple as capturing that magic. No,
it's something to look forward to, I'm sure. My final question that I ask to everybody that comes on, it's a bit of a hypothetical one. If you guys could tour with one band from the past and one band from the present, who would they be? So you got your time travel device, you could go anywhere and pick up people. Everybody always struggles with this question.
You know what? I think I'd say just on Who's Next, the Who. Just after Who's Next, when it was like, when they were really booting doors off, you know. I think I'd go there. That's my first instinct. Now, ooh. Aaron, help.
Do you want me to give my answers?
Well, this is what happens on stage, isn't it, man? When I drop the ball, you're there to pick it up for me.
Well, I'll give my answers and you can have a think.
Thanks, man.
Go for it.
The Rolling Stones and the Rolling Stones.
So young Rolling Stones. No.
Sure, yeah.
Hang on, are we talking Mick Taylor Rolling Stones?
Yeah, I'll do that as an old Rolling Stones, and then we'll do Ronnie's and Rolling Stones.
Yeah, I concur with that, even though it's yours. Oh, Lord have mercy. Maybe Rival Son. No, you know what? Greta Van Fleet. I go for Greta. I do
yes.
tour of the States with Greta Van Fleet. That's what I'd do.
That'd be a solid shout. I know you were about to say Rival Sons there. Rival Sons to date is our most popular present day one. A lot of people do say Rival Sons. So I don't think we've had a Greta Van Fleet yet, though. So that could be.
Everybody pretend to hate them. You got to think of the market, man. There's a whole bunch of young rock and roll fans there waiting to see those guys.
Yeah.
This is it.
You'd be daft not to.
So we've got potentially Keylock, Greta Van Fleet, and then Rolling Stones. I mean, that'd be a strong evening there.
Whoa, are we not headlining?
I mean, you could push yourself. I mean, it's your gig.
as if that 70-year-old Mick Jagger still.
Yeah, just bring him off stage. Well, of course, thank you both again for joining me. For those that want to check out Keylock, you can have a look at their singles, of course, in the link below, and their Facebook and everything else to keep up to date with what's going on. Do you guys kind of have any end of year gig plans or anything like that, maybe? Or are you focused purely on album?
Yeah, everything is focused on the studio at the moment. We don't want anything to, because it's been such a journey getting here. Nothing is going to get in the way of this juggernaut taking off now. So, yeah, not at the moment, but we'll be on stage before the end of the year, I should imagine, because I might go nuts if we're not. So,
no, that's fair enough. So, for anybody that kind of wants to check you guys out live, obviously just keep an eye on the Facebook page, and something may pop up. Well, thank you very much, guys, and I'll probably see you soon at some point. So I'm here with Neil and Luke of Blue Nation. Thank you very much for joining me.
All right.
Thank you, mate. No, thanks for having us. That's the main thing.
It's cool, man. So something I always like to do is I like to have a look at kind of how things all began for an artist. So going back, how did things kind of all start for you both? Like, how did you get into wanting to play music?
I'll let Luke go first because his story's interesting.
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go on, man.
I've got to remember. So I was about 11 when I started playing bass, and the thing was bigger than me, and I couldn't get my hands around it at all. So I started listening to some bands and stuff like that. And my dad, he's an old rocker. He turned me on to bands like Cream, Zeppelin, The Who, and I loved it. So what I did, I sat down with my CD player and I picked every song out by ear. And that's basic. I always say that the people who taught me how to play bass is Jack Bruce, John Paul Jones and John Entwistle, because I just picked everything out by ear. And that's, I learned what they did through just listening to them and stuff like that. The bass was bigger than me and I couldn't get my hands around it. So my dad bought me a little Dan Electro Longhorn, a short scale bass. And that's when everything kind of clicked for me then. When I could actually play the thing, everything started to fall in place. And then I joined a band when I was like 12 when I joined my first band.
He's only 14 now, to be fair. Yeah. He looks older than his age.
Yeah, I've had a shave. So this was about 2 years ago. Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, I've been playing in live music since about the age of 12. My first gig was at the Symphony Hall to a sold out audience.
Wow.
Supporting a deaf percussionist called Evelyn Glennie. She was absolutely amazing. And then since then I've just gigged a lot smaller venues.
We've not got back to the Symphony Hall yet, have we?
Started big,
Yeah,
that's it, mate. And then I think my next gig after that was in a pub in the basement of a pub called Scruffy Murphy's. And if anyone from Birmingham's watching, you'll know how small that stage was. So it's it was a big culture shock to me. But no, it's a live gig nonetheless, and a gig is a gig, so you got to play it.
Yeah, mine was bizarrely similar. And to be fair,
you was a footballer, weren't you?
I was a footballer. Yeah. So I was at Nottingham Forest and Peterborough and Crewe and stuff like that, and I fell out of love with football because I was doing it like. After my dad has to drive me to Peterborough like every kind of weekend and every kind of night and stuff for training and stuff, and I just fell out of love with it. And I knew the moment I fell out of love with it because I was in the coach going to a game, and all the lads were like, I was about 14 I think, and all the lads were like, "Oh, what are you getting for Christmas, Neil?" I was like, "I'm getting a guitar," and all of them were like, "Well, I'm getting new football boots, and I'm getting new shin pads, and I'm getting this goal for my back garden." I'm like, "Well, I'm getting a guitar," and then I thought, "Oh, I'm moving away from this, aren't I?" And then I just literally fell out of love with it and didn't play football for years. And then just played the guitar, and same as Luke, just listened to tunes. And my dad introduced me to Hendrix and Cream as well, and just sat there and just listened to stuff and went through it. Ocean Colour Scene were massive on me as well, so that they were kind of the first. That's when I started thinking, oh my god, the musical history in Birmingham is massive, because I thought, well, if they're from Birmingham and they were playing places like the Jug of Ale and stuff like that, then maybe I could do something. So it was kind of that touch, that little touch paper for me was them, and that's why I play a gold top now, because of Craddock and stuff like that. So yeah, and then just when Luke and I met, I was looking for a bass player, and we spoke to one of the promoters. She works at the Night Owl in Birmingham, and just said, "Look, I need a bass player. Can you put a post out?" Because she knows everybody. And Luke said, "Yeah, I'm interested." And then me and Luke went for a few beers, which turned into a lot of beers. And a guy came up to us and said, "Are you two in a band?" And we thought, well, that's got to be the best first audition ever. We got drunk with each other, and someone thinks we're in a band together, so therefore we probably should be in a band together. And then he asked if we're a couple, and we're like, no, we're in a band together. Which, that's fine. I don't mind that. So, so it was good. So yeah, kind of similar, to be fair, wasn't it?
I remember our first rehearsal, Neil, and I had I had a classic Mini at the time, and it was in the summer, and it was absolutely roasting hot. But for this classic Mini to work properly, I used to have the heating on full blast and the windows down, because the heating it was just always on and it was boiling. And I turned up to this rehearsal. I think I was in like short shorts, like proper 80s, like Sergio Tacchini tennis shorts.
Yeah, I could see his religion.
That was his first image of me, I think, like, with a guitar.
I imagine it's into my mind forevermore.
Obviously, you guys come from that kind of, as you touched on there, Birmingham, it's like, there's so many bands that have come from that area and been so iconic. Did you, like both of you, did you ever have like a first gig that you went to and you thought like, this is the kind of thing I want to do, or like, I like this kind of, like, I want to be up there rather than be in the crowd?
Yeah, I was very lucky because my mum and dad took me to gigs when I was really young, so I think I was about 9 or 10. I remember that I actually saw Michael Jackson as well. They took me to see Michael Jackson, which back then was all right. Looking back now, looking a bit odd. But to be fair, he put on one hell of a show, because that's what he did. But then I remember I saw the Little Angels, I saw Extreme, and then I just started going to like loads of gigs when I started getting into it as well. And I think the moment it crystallized for me was when I was probably on my first like stadium gig, and it was, I can't even remember, I think it was like the Phonics or something like that, and Black Crows were playing, and might have been Donington, might have been at Donington, right? So it was just a wall of people, and I just thought, oh my god, imagine if you're up there. Imagine if you're the one all these people are looking at and stuff like that. I think that's when it kind of crystallized for me, like, right, I want to have a crack at this. And then when people sing your songs back to you and stuff like that, I thought, how amazing must that be to kind of feel that and see that energy. So that was kind of when it hit me that, I want to have a bit of this, I think.
The first gig I went to, with my dad took me, and it was The Who.
Wow.
The Who at the NEC. I can't remember how old I would have been. I was young though. I was fairly young. So obviously, like, John Oates was one of my heroes, and I got to see him live before he passed away. But then I started going to gigs on my own with my mates and stuff, and that was a bit more of a metal vibe. So the first gig I ever went on my own was to see a band called Hell Is for Heroes, and they were awesome, man. I do remember that first time I crowd surfed.
Was that the Who gig that we think I was at as well?
Yeah.
Because I saw Ed Whistle, and then he popped his clog. And Starkey was on drums, wasn't he?
Yeah, Zach Starkey on drums. Yeah. So
there you go. There's the universe for you. Me and Luke were at the same gig. It was Luke's first gig and mine. Like, yeah, see?
It's written.
Yeah. In the Who Chronicle Stars. It's the Who's fault, right? It's the Who's fault.
Yeah, I reckon Pete Townsend is so proud of that fact now.
I bet he is. Yeah. Do you know what he does? He's sitting down, he's sitting next to Doctor and go, hey, I've got a story for you. Yeah. Do you know this little old band called Blue Nation? I can see it now.
For some reason, Pete Townsend has just stopped what he's doing and he's gone, yes.
Yeah. He saw it coming. He just saw you two separated in the crowd, and he was just I'm
going to hit this power chord, and these boys' lives are going to change.
Exactly.
That's what happened.
So, I mean, I had to look through. I always do a bit of a research thing before. Coming on and doing these interviews and stuff. But the earliest release I could find was right back in 2012, I believe.
What was it called? Hang on,
I can't remember. I was just looking through all the videos and things. But there's I noticed, obviously, at least yourself there, Neil, you've been kind of around.
Oh, I've been doing it for donkeys, mate. I was 7 years old when I started this band. What release was that? Hang on.
It was. I started right the way down.
Yeah, man. That's you've done well there on your research. I'll give you that. Because the only thing on Apple and stuff like that is 2017.
You go, you see.
Yeah, so I started it at school. So I was really young. I'd say I was 14 years old. Is that secondary school, Luke? That's secondary school, isn't it? Yeah.
It's year 9, isn't it? That.
Yeah, year 9. There you go. And I used to rehearse before school because we had a cool music teacher, and after school as well. I never used to sing, and then they said, "Do you want to go in a recording studio and record a single for charity or whatever?" I mean, there was about 6 of us, or whatever, and we thought we were Oasis. And then we went in and recorded, and then I think after that, after I left school, I was in college and stuff, and I've just been searching for the right players. To be fair, you know what it's like in bands. People come and go. People decide to be doctors and lawyers and have babies and move to London and stuff like that. But it's I've been doing this for donkeys, but I'm only now. Actually, I mean, after all those years of apprenticeship, as I like to call them, we're actually only now seeing that. Oh, this is how you do it. I've spent all those years learning it, and this is how you go about this, and this is how you get the right people to work with you and stuff like that. Because we were just playing at it. To be fair with it. God, I want to know what it is now. Riverside. I
believe it's on your YouTube. It's right the way down at the beginning somewhere, buried away.
You've gone deep, haven't you?
Oh yeah, I've done a deep dive.
See, this is what it's like. You get investigative journalism on your case. My God,
Hang on. How far back did you go on me?
Yeah, because that's dangerous. I mean, it could be. I don't think the charity single that we did.
I mean, you look quite different. I will give you that. You had the short hair thing going on, and then some kind of jacket, and I think you were in some kind of warehouse looking place.
Oh, right. So that's let me down slowly. Yes, yeah, that's let me down slowly. So yeah, that and is there a girl in the bathtub?
possibly.
If there's a girl in the bathtub, that is now my wife. I treat them well. That was Let Me Down Slowly. Yeah, and that was the first album, wasn't it, Luke? Was Let Me Down Slowly off the first album?
I don't know.
Oh, see, you don't ask us to look back, mate. We don't know what we're talking about. It's never. I'm going to find it now. Yeah, I think it is. Let Me Down Slowly. Yes, it is. 15th of July, 2013. There you go. That was the first album. There you go, mate. So yeah, no, I was doing more before that as well. Right now, everyone's going to be searching for that charity single that I did when I was 14 years old, and it is shite. Right, so do not. I actually, do you know what? I once went in to a charity shop and was going through the CDs and it was in there. I have never been so more humbled in all my life that someone bought a charity single and thought it was so crap they went and gave it to a charity, right, to resell. Right, so yeah,
if anybody has bought that charity shop single, do let us know in the comments below.
Well, I can tell you now, it's called Riverside. The track was called Riverside. I remember it, and it's like got the shittest picture on the front and the crappiest logo. It's got Blue Nation on it, but people have got it. I have found one once on eBay. I think my old man's got one as well. But yeah, I'm hoping that never sees the light of day. But
it's a deep cut.
Looking at what you did, I think you're going to get off this and be like.
Moving forward to a more recent release, of course, the latest EP Echoes, which is out now. It's had like such a great reception. I mean, of course, ERB magazine gave it 9 out of 10. Another one, Maximum Volume Music, gave it 8.5 out of 10. So
Powerplay gave it 9 out of 10 as well. Powerplay magazine. And I was just didn't want you to forget that one either, mate.
No, of course, go for it.
On the Sunday Sport. The Sunday Sport, what did they give it, Luke?
They gave it 5 tits.
Yeah. 4 out of 5 or something, was it?
Yeah. 4 out of 5 nipples, I think it was.
God knows how we got in there. I mean, that's how it's gone for us in the last year, man. It's gone nuts. But yeah, it's surpassed all our expectations totally. It's kind of me and Luke kind of speak every day about this, and it kind of doesn't feel like it's us. It's really odd.
There's a little bit of imposter syndrome, I think. To be getting 9 out of 10 reviews, it's like we never expected it. Obviously, we write the music because we think it's good, but we don't think anyone else is going to think it's good. You know what I mean?
We're like, this is a solid 7 out of 10. And then someone goes, it's 9. Like, what are you hearing?
Yeah, it's crazy. The response that we're getting from fans, and we find like because of the songs and the EP, we seem to be getting new people on board as well, and it's amazing. It's a really, really lovely feeling, and it's why we do it, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, it's mad, mate. It's mad. Luke said something the other day in another interview. He said, because he doesn't need to worry about selling tickets now, which I know many bands listening to this will be sitting there going, oh my God, I want that, because we wanted it for so long, right? And this EP launch we're doing, normally exactly who's coming to your gigs. It's your friends, your family, your brothers, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and you know the names, and then when you look out into the crowd, you can see it, right? Even if it's like a 50 or 100 cap venue, you're like, I pretty much know everybody here, and you slog for months to get like just near ticket sales or make some money back. I think on this one, in the first 2 weeks, it was the first time we've ever done a pre-sale through like the O2 and stuff like that, and like 100 tickets just went. Wow. And then we saw the people kind of buying the tickets through our merch site, and every time someone bought tickets, we were like, do you know this person? No, I don't know this person. Who are they? Are they friends of them? And it was just like, to the point that our friends were like, we ain't got tickets yet. And I was like, you're going to have to, because you see, but he's not asked us. I said, yeah, we know. That's because we don't need to. So they were like, oh my God. And they got on. It's like, yeah. But it's this amazing feeling to kind of have strangers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think a true sign of success is when you start and look out and you have no idea who the hell it is that's there.
That's it. Yeah, I walked out of a venue the other day, and some people who I've never met in my life wanted a photo with me. And they actually called my name. Like, what? Is there another Luke here or something? It's like, yeah, but they actually wanted a photo with me. It's like, okay, I don't mind.
Luke came back to the dressing room, and then I pretended that they weren't there and went down, and then
yeah, he just kind of wandered around the corridors for a while. So obviously, we've talked about the reception of the album. How did that process start? Because would it have been a lockdown album? Well, EP.
So we went into pre-production. September 2021, wasn't it, Luke? Or before that? Yeah, September 2021. We went into pre-production. Yeah. And we went in with Trevor Gibson, and I had conversations with Trev in 2020. We were like met for socially distant coffees outside and all that kind of stuff because he actually got COVID pretty bad as well. And I just remember saying to him, look, we need to raise this to the next level. We think we've got the songs, but we need help to step up, right? Like every other band. And I don't think many bands look internally at themselves and go, right, okay, we know we can do this, but we need someone to kind of guide us and support us. And that's why you have a producer and stuff like that. I can't stand self-produced, self-engineered albums by bands because I never think you can't look inwardly and go, that bit of the song's rubbish, because you've written it, because you're so invested in it, and it might be someone's best part, or it might be a lead vocal solo or Luke's bass solo. There's no way Luke's going to sit there, or I'm going to sit there and go, oh no, get rid of that really cool vocal bit where I can show off, because you're the band, right? That's your job.
Yeah.
But when you've got someone like Trev, so we went into pre-production in September 2021. I remember the first thing he said to us was, I'm going to work you like you've never been worked before. And we were like, oh, yeah, that's fine. I think on the third day, I text Luke going, I am literally getting home at like 10 o'clock and sleeping 12 hours solid. Like, I'm literally like someone's knocking me out. And he's like, yeah, me too. It was shattering, wasn't it, mate, to go through it?
It was, yeah. It was mentally exhausting when it just the way, it's not like, he doesn't like, when he says work you hard, he just makes you think, and he has this magic way of like not telling you what to do. He just kind of guides you in that direction. So we went in with 4 songs that we thought were absolute bangers. We played them to him and he went, yeah, you need to change them. So yeah, after 4, was it 2 or 4 days with him?
I think we did 4 days 4 days recording, and it was 3 days pre-production.
Yeah,
it was just wild, wasn't it, mate? When because we go in and play the song, right? And we won't tell you how Trev does pre-production because he's got his own method, which he said to us, please don't tell anyone because this has worked for me really, really well. And so the kind of magic sauce bit, a bit like KFC or stuff like that, you can't tell you. But he came, we'd do the song, we'd come in and we'd do his special thing. That sounds so dodgy, but it works, trust me. No rituals involved or anything like that. And you go, right, go back in. And we'd go back in and do it again and change stuff and tweak stuff and stuff like that. Then come back out again, listen to it again. So it was kind of that constantly. So you're in like 3 days of constantly rewriting and writing parts and listening back to them, then putting your critical ears back on, listening to it again, mapping out where you think it could go, or or what happens here, or Neil, that guitar bit doesn't work there. What about if it's here, and all that kind of stuff. And the beauty of it is when you get stuck, because we did, right? We in and out. I think it was The Reason, wasn't it, Luke? Because that was the last one we recorded. We were in and out. And we came back and Trev just went, right, just take 5 minutes. Don't do anything. Just chill out. And we kind of just felt the whole room go, oh, yeah, okay. It was just like, because because he'd got us into this routine of going in, out, and stuff like that, we were forgetting that we had to kind of sit down and just focus on the songs and stuff like that. And by the end of it, we were coming out of the studio into the control booth and saying to Trev, right, this needs to change, this needs to change. And Luke go, yeah, I'm going to do this. And Trev just went, okay, go back in. So we'd kind of tutored us from the first song to the fourth song. I was saying, right, lad, you've got it. You know what you're doing. Go on. Yeah.
I think the word producer is thrown about quite a lot, where a lot of people are actually people that record albums. They're more engineers, whereas Trevor actually did produce it. He helped. He did help us, and he's such an interesting bloke. He used to be a negotiator for the UN or NATO. He's a lawyer.
Oh, yeah, it
was in Bosnia. In the Bosnian the Civil War. There, he used to tell snipers to stop shooting each other or civilians, and he got shot. He got shot himself because of it. And then he's a lawyer. He's a lawyer, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he's a very, very good record producer as well. He's so kind as well. He's really kind.
Yeah. He's a really good guy. He's have you heard of the film Scream for Me Sarajevo with Bruce Dickinson?
Yes.
Right, so that's Trev. So Trev did that. So Trev flew Bruce in there, right? And they literally, that's what Trev did. And like the amount of stuff the stories he's told us, which we cannot repeat, not about that, about the music industry and stuff like that. Some of these huge bands which he's produced and he's told, no, that's rubbish, go away. And I was like, Trevor, I wish you'd told us that after we'd come out of the studio with you rather than before. It's like, the names of these people, he's saying your song isn't good enough. For people you go, well, that song's amazing. But then Trevor's like, yeah, but it wasn't when I heard it. It was shite. It's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So, but yeah, he has absolutely stepped us up, and we're talking to him again. And he's on the same level as he goes, yeah, it's great that you've done this. Now you've got to go up again. And we were like, oh shit, yeah, we've got to do it again, haven't we? We've got to go up the level. So there's never any resting on this. It's about, right, okay, what can we do better, faster? How can we make the sound bigger, better? How can we get people value for this for people? How can we do this on a big stage with a bigger show and stuff like that? So we never kind of stop going to the next level, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So the title track, Echoes, could you talk a bit about kind of what it's about and like the meaning behind it?
Yeah. We're as a band, we're very honest, right? I used to wear leather coats on stage and got rid of that, thankfully. But we're
it's too warm.
Yeah, well, no, you're trying to find yourself in a band, and and I was as well. And now I'm very happy with who I am on stage and who I've got around me, and hopefully Luke says the same. But with everything we do, right? It's just honesty. What you see on stage, what you see in the music, what you see kind of here, mate, on a computer screen is us, right? And I don't like bands that hide away from that. So Echoes is about grief, right? It's about losing someone you love, be it family member, friend, other half, whatever it may be to you. And it's the journey you go through on surviving and going through grief. And I wrote the lyrics, and it took me about 10 or 15 minutes to kind of get the main structure and the lyrics down, and it kind of just fell out of my head because I was thinking of this person who I lost, and then I took it to Luke, and he was like, yeah, this is cool, and then he put his magic bits on it as well, and it was like, I find if you write from what happens to you, be it love, loss, friendships, anger, happiness, party, whatever it may be, you're going to connect with the audience members. And someone said an amazing thing I heard the other day, which articulates far better than I can. They said, with grief, it never leaves you. You just get better at managing it. And I thought, wow, that's such a amazing way to think. So Echoes effectively is me managing it, and because when I sing the song, I think of the person it's about and stuff like that. And we say this on stage, and we talk to people, and I think there's several milestones that we've seen in the last year that have kind of hit us out of the blue. But one of them was when we were breaking bands, wasn't it, Luke? And the first probably time we played Echoes live, and I explained what it was about. And this woman came up to us afterwards, and she just started crying on us. And said, I was crying when you played it. I'm crying now. I lost my friend, and explained to us what happened to her. And she goes, You've got it perfect of what it's like, and the echo of the person. That's why it's called Echoes. And that just kept happening. And we get social media messages. I had a 15-year-old kid come up to me and said, I lost my best friend to suicide last month, and this has helped me. Literally this week, Luke and I supported Chantel McGregor, and a father and a son came up to us and said, that song Echoes, oh my God. And we're like, oh, cool, did you like it? He said, yeah, well, we lost his mum like last month. And I'm like, what? And he was like, and this kid's what? How old is he, Luke? 11? This kid?
About 11 or 12, yeah.
11 or 12. And he said, and both of them start welling up. And I'm like, whoa. I was like, oh man, I'm so sorry. And he was like, no, don't be sorry. What you've done is an amazing thing. And, we talk about it. And I was just like, if I go back to when I was 11, Luke was obviously
that's fresh. That's fresh, isn't it? In the bereavement process of losing, I haven't lost my mum yet, but I don't know. For that guy and that son, what they're going through, to be able to come up and talk to us, it really means a lot. And no one, you shouldn't shy away from your emotions and stuff. Blokes have got this thing where they just hold it, pent it up, and it comes out a lot of the times in negative ways. You just got to let it out, man. You got to let it out. And music is one of the best ways to do that. Everyone's got that album or that song that heals them. Mine personally is Quadrophenia. If I'm feeling shit, if I'm feeling angry, if I'm just getting pissed off at the world, I'll put Quadrophenia on, and it just puts me in a state of zen, and I can kind of reset again. Music transcends over so many things, and it does really heal. But yeah, I think we never did we ever mean Echoes to do this for people, Neil?
You know what? No, not at all. And I was in so many conflicting minds whether to tell people, because obviously we get asked, like yourself, you want to know what it's about and stuff like that. Yeah. And I was never going to say what it was about, because to me, I was so obvious, like it was kind of a cathartic way for me to process what was going on in my head and stuff like that. And then, like most things with us, me and Luke just blurt stuff out on stage. And then because we got that reaction when we speak to more people about it, they're just like, my God, yeah, and then when it got released, we were getting people were sending us messages on and films and stuff, and it was just, and it still is. I literally got one today. I got one literally today from a young girl. She was about 16 years old. She said, I lost my dad, years ago in this song. And I'm like, we don't know who she is. And I've got no idea. And she thanked us. I'm like, we're just a band that went into the studio, and I did this in a horribly selfish moment to help myself. But then I thought, actually, this is going to help people, so I should talk about it, and I should tell people about it. And we've done a lot of stuff for the Mind charity, and we're working with the Samaritans at the minute as well, because Luke's bang on right, man. There's blokes are rubbish at it. Blokes are crap at telling how they feel and stuff like that. And, if you look at the horrible suicide rates within young men, it's shocking. It really is. And so if you've got any way, if you're at a gig, and we always talk about it when we're on stage, if we can help someone who is feeling a bit shit, and if it is us, then cool, it's us, or if it's their mate or whatever, then that's where it is. But that's a long answer for what Echoes is about, mate. But it kind of needs.
I was going to say, because it's. I think that shows the power of music, isn't it? It's a very relatable song. So many people can relate to that, particularly grief. At some point in your life, even if it's not right now, you're going to have it. Now, one question I always like to finish on and ask every guest that comes on. It's a bit of a hypothetical one. If you could tour with one band from the past and one band from the present, who would they be?
That's easy. Beatles and Rival Sons.
Wow.
See how quick that was.
That's like the fastest answer we've ever had.
Hey, Beatles and Rival Sons, done. Easy.
See, I don't, as much as like the Beatles are a religion to me, they didn't really they stopped playing after a bit.
Yeah, but imagine supporting the Beatles.
Yeah, it'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Nice.
Well, it depends what era, because you've got your time travel device, so you could select a time. You could go with peak Beatles, or you could go with like early days Beatles.
I'd like the rooftop gig. I'd like to support the rooftop gig.
Yeah.
And I would have. So yeah. They never gigged it though. They never played it live.
Well, they are if we're supporting. We're making them. That's what's happening.
Okay. All right. Okay. For me. I don't know. Frank Zappa.
Oh, I was going to say. Well, not Pink Floyd.
Actually, yeah, Pink Floyd, because they probably, like, Frank Zappa was famous for not allowing any drinking or anything else going on his tours. So probably, yeah. Yeah, Pink Floyd, Pompeii era. Pompeii, so Echoes and Dark Side of the Moon kind of era. And a band that I'd like to go on tour with currently at the moment. Oh, I don't know. The Mars Volta have just brought out a new album, and hopefully they're going to be on tour. So Cedric and Omar, if you're watching this, sort us out.
Always on the cell, always on the rob.
Yeah.
That's
I am from Shard so it does make sense, doesn't it now? Yeah.
No, that's cool. Rival Sons has been the common one that I've had. throughout the
Everyone
last
else
year.
can piss off.
Yeah, it's our gig. Everyone get out of it. We said it first.
Yeah.
Right, we do the fastest answer.
There must be, at least at this point, we must have had Rival Sons over 15 to 20 times. It's a very popular, like, it shows kind of
They're a
how
good
ingrained they are. Yeah.
They're a really, really good band. I remember when I first found them, and I just thought, Jesus Christ, this is something else. And they've developed into this stuff, and live, they're phenomenal. They're all vision as well. With that, that helps me and Luke. So
Is that also your way of asking Neil to choose another band because he's been on original?
No.
wow. You ever had a band break up on your podcast, mate?
Yeah.
Right. So,
coming up this week, we have the breakup.
We'll get people watching then, won't we? Hey.
If anybody wants to go and check out Blue Nation, obviously the link will be in the description below. You can check out the latest EP, Echoes. And do you guys have any gigs lined up in the near future?
Yeah, we're playing with Lawrence Jones in Bullingdon, in Oxford in Bullingdon. We've got the EP launch at the O2 Institute on 24th September. We're playing with Chantel McGregor around the country. Lou's Rock and Blues Festival. Probably the biggest one will be the Rock and Blues Festival in Skegness in January next year.
The Lou one's quite big.
Lou's big in December as well.
Blues,
Yeah. But yeah, if you go onto the site, you'll see all the events and stuff like that. But yeah, it's busy, but next year's going to be even busier.
So I'm here with Henry of the Karma Effect. Thank you very much for taking the time to chat with me.
That's all right. Thanks for having me, man.
Oh, it's cool, man. So one thing that we like to do on the show is we like to kind of have a look at how things all began for a musician. So like, what got you into wanting to play music? And was it guitar first or was it vocals first?
Oh, that's a great question. So I come from a family that is just not musical at all. Like everybody loves music, and I grew up listening to music, but none of my family, my parents, grandparents, anything as far back as I know, have ever played an instrument. For me, as a little kid, it was the well, basically, I remember it vividly. We would we'd go on like long family like holidays, car journeys. Like we used to holiday down in the West Country. And we'd be driving down there, and my mum would always have something on cassette at the time in the car that was it was either Queen, U2, David Bowie, that kind of thing. And I just remember the thing that got me was two things, really, actually. The power of Freddie Mercury's voice and the overall like awesomeness of Brian May's guitar. And I remember being like, I don't know which one I want to be. I don't know if I want to be a singer or if I want to be a guitar player. So I was like, I'm going to go for guitar. I'm going to try that. And I did the whole thing like, I'm gonna. My parents kind of gave in and were like, we'll get him a little classical guitar, something like one of these, and we'll set him. We'll set him up with a couple of lessons. And they thought, it's going to be a bit of a phase. No one's ever really stuck to doing like music lessons. So we'll see how it goes. And here I am about 22 years later, and it's all I've ever done with my life is play music. But it was definitely thanks to those early days of just being like in awe of listening to those bands like Queen and, David Bowie as well. And then I remember I got like one of those Guitar Hero albums where all the like different tracks. So then that was like, I got into like things like Free and Bad Company. And then it was like Iron Maiden, and then into the 80s, Motley Crue. And so I went through like everything, but it was great. And, I wouldn't change a thing,
Did you have a moment where you kind of discovered that you had this kind of like, you've got quite a powerful voice? That was the first thing that struck me when I saw you guys live. And it was like that was the thing that went in my head. I thought maybe you were a vocalist first and then you kind of did the guitar bit.
So the vocals thing happened when we were at primary school. So my focus since I was like a little kid was I just want to be in a band. I was like, you know, forget academics, you know, forget all of that stuff. I know where my passion and I kind of felt like I knew from a young age, like I knew where I needed to go and what I needed to do. I was like, that's just why. I was like, I've always kind of felt, I was like, that's why I'm here. That's what I want to be. That's what I want to do. But no one wanted to be the singer. Like everybody wanted to play guitar or play the drums or keyboards, bass, whatever. No one wanted to stand up there. And I don't know if it's because if you're just a singer, you're a little bit naked in terms of like you haven't got anything. It's very exposing to stand there unless you're Steven Tyler and you've got scarves hanging off your mic stand. But at the same time, you know, when you're, you know, 9 or 10 and you're playing your first recital or concert or something, it's really daunting. But I've always had like the confidence to just be like, well, if no one else is going to do it, I'm going to do it. And what ended up kind of happening was I ended up singing, and then I realized quite quickly that I could sing and play, which I then nurtured and kind of went on with and tried to build on. But I was told, which is still to this day, which is very flattering. A lot of people were like, we love your voice. And I didn't realize I had that. My mum and dad were like, where has he got that from? Like, you know, like how can he sing and we all can't sing? It was a little bit like that. So now I just very much, I feel like now as an adult, as a performer, I'm more the singer than I am the guitar player, which is why we have Robbie, who can, you know, play all the fancy widdly solos as well, because I'm like, I liken myself like another great singer, for instance, like a Justin Hawkins from The Darkness, for instance, amazingly talented guitar player and a phenomenal singer, but he does a bit of like what I do, where you come in, you play a bit, and then you drop out, and that's why he's got his brother and I've got Robbie. So yeah.
That's cool, man. I mean, we've spoke about this in the past on this show a lot, where a musician, they'll go to like their first gig and they'll be quite struck by either a certain singer or even just the whole thing. Like a lot of people, they get that feeling of like, I want to be up there and not down here. Did you ever have kind of a moment like that where it's like, that's what I want to do 100%?
I still do. Every gig I go to, I'm like my like me and my fiance, she drives her up the wall, because she's like, I get like weirdly itchy feet, like, oh, I should be doing that. I should be playing tonight. I should be playing. but no, when I was a kid, my first ever gig, the first ever band I went to go and see was Motorhead at Brixton Academy. You know, and I met Lemmy before the gig in a Chinese restaurant in Brixton, which was like the most surreal thing. In fact, I met two people that night. One of them, I've already mentioned, was one of my heroes, who I, as a little uppity kind of teenager at the time, I think I was about 12, 13, where the other person, we were sitting up in the like balcony bit, and I was like, who is this person with this massive hair in front of me? I was like, who is this? I can't see. And the lights flashed on, it turned around, and it was Brian May. Wow. And that night he got up and he played with Motorhead. So I was like, oh my God, I've just insulted the reason why I am even here listening to this band and playing music and all that. So I felt pretty awful about that. But no, Motorhead was the first time I saw a crowd and it was before the smoking ban as well. So like it was like a hazy like sea, and I was like, this just looks like seeing people like bounce and jump. I was like, that is all I want to do, just for the rest of my life. For the rest of my life, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think there's that whole new level when it's live, isn't it? Like you just get a real feeling, and as you say, like you just seeing the crowd and the way they react to those, like they have the same, like you're all there because you have the same connection.
Exactly, and I love. I love loud music, and I love. I mean, obviously, first band I ever saw is.
Yeah, you don't get much louder.
They are the loudest band in the Guinness Book of World Records, whatever. Yeah. But I mean, the thing that I loved about it, and I still love, is when you go see a band, big or small, is I just love that feeling of like. It hits you in the chest and you're like, oh God, I feel like it's physically moving me. And I'm like, this is where I want to be. Yeah, it's great.
That's cool, man. So for those that kind of don't know much about the Karma Effect, how did the band all come together? I believe it's a lockdown band, isn't it? Born out of...
So, yeah, you could say that. So before the lockdown, I've known a lot of the guys for a long time, and we've played in various different things together. We've either done like, you know, your classic function work, or we've done, you know, session work together, and some of us have been in actual bands together as well, like where we've tried, failed, stopped, gone, should we do it again? And basically the Karma Effect was me having been out of the kind of scene for a long time, focusing on playing for other people, doing a bit of singing for other people, or doing like, I did a bit of tribute work. I did some tribute act, classic rock stuff, and I basically messaged Ash, the drummer, who's my best friend, and I went, I'm going to do it. I said, I have written these songs that I want to put my name to. At the time, it was a little bit less heavy. It was a bit more, I was still exploring what I wanted to be. Part of me was like, do I go super bluesy and do the whole like Stevie Ray Vaughan, bit of poppy John Mayer in there, or do I do the more singer-songwritery Jackson Browne meets Tom Petty? All of these things that I just love. And I was like, I kind of had started writing these songs, and it was like a little bit like at the time, it was like a Tom Petty meets a softer Zeppelin, that very vintage sounding sort of stuff, bit of Stones in there as well. And I was like, I'm going to do a band, and and it's going to be like my thing, and it'll be my name, and it'll be like, I'll get my friends to come in and play on it, and it'll be kind of that. So I handpicked all these guys. My friend Liam, who plays bass, and we've got this. We met this guy in our town, Seb, who plays keys, who is unbelievably good. And I was like, yeah, I'll play all the guitar and it'll be great. And so we sort of started jamming before lockdown, and I'd written about 4 or 5 songs, and I was like, yeah, this is cool. And then all that was happening was, I'm so used to being in a band and having a band kind of work together rather than them work for you or work for me. I was like, this just feels awkward. I was like, I don't like Ash being like, what do you want to do, Hen? Like, I was like, what do we want to do? Like, what do you think? Like, so very quickly, it kind of developed into this kind of, and obviously it developed into this kind of band, and the nature of it is that we're all into our big bluesy based classic rock. I love Aerosmith, are one of my favorite bands, and the Black Crowes are one of my favorite bands, and with the nature of like Ash's drumming, which is very big, like ballsy kind of John Bonham, Joey Kramer kind of style heavy hitter, and Liam again like into his heavy rock bass, I was like, these songs that I've written, they are destined to become that rather than be the kind of mellow thing. And I said to the guys, I was like, this is a band, this is a thing, let's just go for it. Like, let's just absolutely like go for it. And that's when I was like, I've always had another guitar player. We need another guitar player. So I called Robbie, and I was like, I need someone that has that kind of like Joe Perry swagger in his playing. It's a bit kind of like almost like rockabilly in a sense, very bluesy, but obviously someone that can like really rock, and someone that can rock like a cool Les Paul or something like that. That's what I was thinking. Like, that's what we need. And I was like, Robbie Blake from uni, when we studied in Brighton at music university. I was like, he is the guy. So we reconnected, and I was like, come down to a rehearsal and meet the guys. And literally we got in a room, and it was, I know you hear bands say it all the time, but it is true. It was like lightning, like struck the room. It was like, this is a thing, and we need to just stay together and nurture this and do what we can. And we obviously did something right, because we managed to, we very quickly recorded these songs, and we got a management deal, and it was like, right, we are like moving really fast now. But it all kind of stemmed, it was all kind of, in sporadic lockdowns. It was very challenging, very difficult, but amazing at the same time. Like, I said this to someone recently. I said, it's an experience that none of us will ever want to do again. And it was horrible, and there was some really nasty parts about the whole thing. But in a weird way, it was so unique, and it probably, or hopefully, won't happen again. But it almost brought us closer together as a band, because we had to work harder. And that, I think, that's testament to the group, I think.
I think something like that, as you say, like, with it being such a rare thing that's happened, I can't remember a time where you've had musicians that can't even go and play together. Like, you've got to kind of do it remotely. So, I mean, did you guys kind of make the album kind of semi-remotely and then kind of go into the studio, or? So
we didn't make it. We didn't make it remotely. What we did do is, when we were writing, so I tend to do quite a lot of the writing, and then I bring ideas to the band. Sometimes it might be half a song or a riff, or it might be a whole song. And I always say to the guys, I was like, nothing's finished until we've done it together. But sometimes they might be more finished than others. You know what I mean? Like, we're currently in that exact process at the moment with our second album that we're doing, which is why I'm in this music shop, because in about half an hour we've got rehearsals. So the thing that we kind of tried to do was, we set ourselves a weekly Zoom meeting, and I'd sit at my computer, I'd have all the guys on Zoom, and we'd work, and I'd like record the demos remotely at my house, and I'd have Ash being like, with little MIDI drums, like, I think we're going to do like this, and it's a quarter note and not an eighth note, and Robbie and I would go through riffs, and Seb would start working on his keys, all that stuff. And then when we could, we'd get in and we'd literally like hammer it days at a time. We'd book a place out for a weekend. We'd go in, we'd play 12 hours straight, and we'd just hammer out the record. To the point of like, because we originally set out to do an EP, and then we got a manager, and he went, no. And I was like, all right. He went, don't bother. He was like, I want an album, and I want it in this by X. So I was like, okay, right, we got work to do. So, we did have a little bit of like, we had all of the COVID stuff to contend with, but then we also had our backs against the wall, because we had about another 3 or 4 songs that we needed to write for an album. And it was yeah, it was an amazing experience of like, we'd get together on a Tuesday after work or because we were in lockdown, we didn't have anything to do, and we'd sit there and we'd do that, and then we'd plan what we were going to do, and then we went in and recorded it together in the summer of 2022, so it came out. We recorded it in 2021 in about May to July, I think that was about right. And then obviously we had the summer and it was all great and COVID wasn't a thing. And then we were like, oh, it's all done. And then all of a sudden we were all back in lockdown by November. So that was a bit annoying because we wanted to start getting things like prepared, and it was like, are we ever going to actually get a chance to gig and whatnot? But we got there and it came out, and it was, you know, it's been a massive success, which was really cool.
Yeah, it's interesting now because I'm going to gigs and I'm seeing people wearing Karma Effect shirts. Like I was at Rival Sons a few months ago and I'm seeing people walk past with the Karma Effect shirts on. I'm like, this is interesting. Yeah.
Where did you see them? I saw Rival Sons at Kentish Town.
I was in Nottingham, just Rock City.
Nice, yeah. With Dirty Honey, of course, who I adore. I think they're brilliant.
They are very good. For somebody that's never kind of heard you guys before, is there a song that, you know, you feel kind of encapsulates the band, sums you up in one kind of thing?
Yeah, well, I'd say, yeah, there is. I'd say probably off the first single off the album, "Steal Your Heart." It's a fun, playful, bluesy, very upbeat kind of swung classic rock song. Very in the style of that kind of 70s rock thing, which we love. I've said it many a time and I'm proud of it. We're not here to reinvent the wheel here. We're here to play the music that we adore and that we love and put our modern day stamp on that sound, you know. Like I said, the early Aerosmith records for me are the kind of the vibe of the band, and you can really hear the influence on tracks like "Steal Your Heart" or "Wrong Again," and then obviously the more kind of southern Crowsy element on the tracks like "Stand" and stuff like that, which is a very kind of piano driven rock ballad, gospel-y kind of song. There's a lot of kind of like gospel elements in our music as well. They're kind of, some people would say southern, sort of southern rock, but I personally think it's more from a kind of gospel perspective rather than like the kind of southern rock thing. But I'll take whatever as long as people like it, you know?
Moving forward, do you guys kind of, I mean, you kind of touched on it there with the second album thing. Do you guys have any kind of plans for the future?
Yeah, we're really busy. Writing the next record. We're still an absolute drop in the ocean compared to where we want to be. We've got very high expectations in this band and we work extremely hard, but we had some great success for where we're at with our first album. We made, for a band that's, you know, we were number 2 in the Amazon rock charts. We made it into the UK top 40 of the overall rock charts, and you know, we had some great success and we've built a great fan base. So our thinking right now is I've already been writing the next album, so let's just get it done and get it out and get it there for people. We want to give people more and we want to do more, and that also is like flows in parallel with the fact that we are also, you know, we've got a lot of gigs coming up this autumn and lots of stuff that we'll be announcing soon for next year, which is also really exciting. Some of which has already been announced. We've got Planet Rock's Winter's End in February next year, which we're really excited for. So to be one of the bands that's asked to do these more kind of like major rock festivals, having only still really played a handful of gigs, is really cool, and we're very humbled by that as a band. And sometimes we kind of can't really believe it. You know, when we're playing alongside such bands like These Wicked Rivers and Bad Touch, and you know, and then other bands like, I don't know, Chris Barris and all of this stuff. You're like, but we're here, and I'm like, how are we here? So it's really nice to kind of to think that we've been accepted by a large amount of people, which is amazing.
There does feel this momentum that's happening, so I can see that you kind of want to keep that momentum going with the second
Absolutely.
album.
I'm a little bit OCD about the amount of I'm like, I'm really like proud of the genre. I'm proud of the UK scene, the alternative scene, especially the kind of new wave of classic rock. They are a kind of family that have taken us under their wing a bit, and you know, we want to just keep giving, and we feel like as a band we're really hungry for it. And as far as I'm concerned, you know, while we're hungry, I want to capitalize on that, and I want to give as much as I can to the people, and I know the other guys in the band feel the same way, so we're just like, let's just keep working.
That's cool. So one question that I always kind of finish on, I ask everybody that comes on, it's a bit of a hypothetical one. If you guys could tour with one band from the past and one band from the present, who would they be? I know. So you've got your time travel device, so you could go back and fetch somebody or a band or anybody.
So is it either or both? Sorry.
No, you could have both. So it's one from the past,
okay,
and then one from the future. Today.
I mean, I'd probably say, just because it would just be amazing, I'd probably say to go back and to support, to open for like Led Zeppelin in like 1975, that kind of like when they did like it's like Prime, the Madison Song Remains the Same era.
Yeah.
I think that would probably be amazing. And what was the other one? A band you could play with now?
Yeah, today.
I mean, I think, well, I'd say two bands really. I know I can't have two, but one's like a big band and one's a small band. I'd probably say I'd love to open for Aerosmith, because they're like icons, they're my heroes, and they're the only real existing band with the original lineup still going. You know, so it would be them. But also from a smaller perspective, I'd love to play with Dirty Honey, because I think that they are flying the flag for, you know, for the genre overseas, and they're building it over here as well. So I'd love to play with them as well. So yeah, those would be my bands. I know I snuck another one in.
Oh, that'd be a fierce gig. So we got like the Karma Effect. I mean, you could go higher. Karma Effect, Dirty Honey. Who we have in top of the bill? So we'd be like,
Aerosmith,
top of the bill, and Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, that would be pretty good. Yeah, I'd probably say though maybe Zeppelin have to go top of the bill just because it's Zeppelin. But
I mean, it's your gig. You've got the power. You could.
You know what I mean? That would be. I tell you what, that would be a wild night.
It would be pretty crazy. Well, thanks for joining me, and for those that want to check out the Karma Effect, the link is in the description below. You know, with the debut album, and for any kind of upcoming gigs that you've got coming up, keep your eyes peeled for that. Thank you very much for joining me, Andrew.
Thank you so much for having us, mate, and thanks for all the support.
Oh, it's cool, man.